of East Point Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, November 2nd, 2023 at 7 p.m. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Roll.
Present.
Ms. Naylor. Present. Mr. Lalonde. Ms. Julinski here. Ms. Moody.
Here.
Chairman Lubeck.
Here. Moving on to the approval of the agenda. Motion would be in order.
I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda in front as written.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is everyone okay with that? Somebody want to make some changes to the agenda? Ms. Brzezowski, our city planner, are you okay with the agenda, or do you need to add or delete something from it?
Thank you, Vice Chair. The agenda is good for me.
All right, that being the case, Secretary, please call the roll.
Ms. Moody.
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde. Mr. Broll.
Yes.
Ms. Naylor.
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Vice Chair Lubeck.
Yes. That brings us to the first hearing of the public. These are for items that are not scheduled for a public hearing. So if you're here to discuss the project at 22011 or 22001 Gratiot, which is the Winter Sausage Project, we ask that you wait for the public hearing on that. Otherwise, the public hearing is open for those that wish to be heard. Mr. Myron? Please sign in, state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
My thing is about the trees, about businesses. And if you own a business and you have to plant the trees, there's no problem. I don't mind trees, I like trees. But making a big thing on putting them somewhere else because the businesses do not have any room for trees, and it seems like a big expense for businesses to plant them somewhere else. And it seems like there's a lot of talk about it, and I think if the businesses have the room, yes, they could plant the trees on their property. If not, then they shouldn't have to be planted somewhere else. And that's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard? Anyone else wishing to speak tonight? Seeing none, the first hearing of the public is closed. Moving on, we need approval of the minutes from the October 5th, 2023 meeting.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes of October 5th, 2023.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and support. Are there any additions, deletions, corrections, comments? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Broll.
Yes.
Ms. Naylor.
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde.
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Ms. Moody.
Yes.
Vice Chair Lubeck.
Yes. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Vice Chair, I make a motion to open the public hearing.
We have a motion by Ms. Moody, supported by Ms. Naylor.
Ms.
Secretary,
Moody?
please call the roll.
Yes.
Ms. Naylor.
Yes.
Mr. Broll.
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde. Ms. Julinski, yes. Vice Chair Lubeck.
Yes. Ms. Brzezowski, if you would introduce the public hearing, please.
Thank you. This is a great night before us. We are excited to have a longtime business with us, Winter Sausage. Hey, Lee, good to see you. Hope the vacation was great. So today, under consideration is a non-conforming Class A designation, and I'll give you an overview of the project and the zoning description to understand why we require a Class A non-conforming designation. So the applicant, Winter Sausage, seeks to expand their food processing and manufacturing facility at 22001 Gratiot. The project involves about a 5,000 square foot addition to the west side of their existing building. The purpose of the addition is to provide extra space for a kitchen and food processing area. Winter Sausage has been a positive business partner since 1987 in East Point. As Winter Sausage seeks site plan expansion, the Macomb County Economic Development Department and the City of East Point Economic Development Department have been working with the applicant to maintain their business within the city and within the county. Efforts to support Winter Sausage include the potential creation of a future industrial development district and potential industrial tax facilities exemption program. The addition makes up about 15% of the floor area. Since the change to the building footprint is less than 25%, the project will receive administrative site plan review. But since the site is located within the mixed-use regional district, manufacturing and food processing facilities are not permitted within this district, making Winter Sausage a non-conforming use. So it is currently a Class B non-conforming use, and since they wish to expand, we require them to go through the process of a Class A non-conforming use. So non-conforming uses are allowed to continue operations, but they are not allowed to expand. That's why they're seeking the Class A non-conforming use designation. Class A nonconformities are uses that are not permitted within a zoning district, but allowed to maintain and, as I said, expand operations if they do not create a nuisance to the community. The purpose of this letter in the review is to assess if the use has a significant adverse impact on nearby properties or the public health, safety, welfare of the community. We have the review before you. We have any questions we're available to answer, and the applicant is also with us here today.
Thank you. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on this item? Anyone wishing to speak on this item? Anyone wishing to speak? Yes, sir. If you could, when you get to the podium, print your name on the pad of paper that's there, and then introduce yourself so we know who we're speaking with.
Okay, good evening. I'm Leroy Stevens. I'm the architect for the project, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have or anything that we're doing. And I'll just give you a real brief what we're asking to do is in the building, faces on the main street, but in the back of the building, we're asking to put an addition on the back to give us some additional room for processing. A kitchen, basically, but processing, we call it. And we're not really adding anything to the building that's detrimental. It's all just part of the existing operation. We're not changing the operation at all. We're not really doing anything but adding more space for us to grow. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Have the owners here. So we're
Okay, I'm sure when we get into new business and considering your request, we will ask questions at that time.
okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Hi, my name's Greg Van Hazenbroek. I'm the Vice President of Winter Sausage. And as Mr. Stevens mentioned, it's about putting an addition on the back of the building. So cosmetically, from the focus from the front, it will look very, very nice aesthetically, and it'll be an improvement to the property itself. What we have is we have put this addition on for a few reasons. As we said, more manufacturing, okay? Most of all, it's for people's safety. We are to a point right now to where we are producing quite a few pounds of product from that facility as it sits, okay? And things are getting a little tight. We're concerned about our employees' safety so that we can spread people out more so and, of course, have them work in a more safer environment. Not that we're unsafe right now, but we're trying to prevent any type of safety issues that might come before us, okay? We're prepared to conform to all rules and regulations. We are a USDA facility. They have their regulations as well, okay, to where you have to have, for example, the right amount of lighting, the right amount of refrigeration, so on and so forth. So we're to a point where we are just about there on a dividing line to where we can't take on any more accounts. Because at some given point, the USDA could say, that's enough right now, guys, okay? It's not about me. It's about the people that got me to this point, okay? For their futures, for their well-being, for their families to keep food on their tables. So this expansion speaks in a lot of different avenues, okay? And it's not about more. It's about the safety of the people, okay? And of course, it will bring more, don't get me wrong. But it's mainly about being and practicing safe food safety regulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak tonight? No one else wishing to be heard?
Chair, can I add a few things? Yes, thank you. I just wanted to add to Planner Bradaszewski's comments and the applicants. We met with them a number of months ago, and a couple of things that they didn't add, but I think is important to consider. They've been in the community for well over 50 years. They are the official sausage for the Detroit Tigers and Lions, so they're an active business, not just in this community, but they're really a regional asset, and they have been approached, by other economic development entities that were aware that they were looking to expand. So from an economic development perspective, this is a great business that has been here for decades that we really want to, support in the best way that we can. And one other thing I wanted to ask the applicant is how many full-time and part-time employees you currently have, and if the expansion is able to proceed, how many employees would be added?
Mr. McCain,
Yeah.
being that this is a public hearing, can we hold off on that question until we get to the discussion item under new business?
Yes, sorry, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much.
That was all. Thank you.
All right, no one else wishing to be? Yes, Fire Marshal.
In my whole career, I've been in the Winter Sausage many times. They are an asset to this community. They have employees that are always happy to be there. They treat their employees well. They conform to everything I need to have. Their doors are always open. They fix anything that needs to be fixed. They treat their employees right. They treat the community right. I feel like anything they need to have done, they should be able to do.
Thank you. All right, I think that's almost everybody in the room. That being the case, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
A motion to close the public hearing?
Support.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Ms. Naylor?
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Ms. Moody?
Yes.
Vice Chair Lubeck?
Yes. That brings us to new business. Item A, consider approving Class A non-conforming designation for Winter Sausage Manufacturing Facility at 22011 and 22001 Gratiot. I'll have a question that I'll start with. In our documentation, it says they've been a positive business partner in the city of East Point since 1987. And I have reason to question that date. The reason being, Winter Sausage was the official hot dog of the 1982 World's Fair in Knoxville, Tennessee. I remember seeing it on the back of their trucks. I remember hearing it on the radio, and I remember enjoying one of their hot dogs when I was at the World's Fair. So I know they've been here longer than 1987. Is there a representative there that can either confirm, deny, or correct exactly how long they've been in the city?
They have been here since 1951.
Okay. So since you started.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, Eugene Winter founded the place in 1951, and it started off very, very small, okay? And over the years, of course, he expanded, then his daughter, Rosemary Wirtz, took over, okay? And she expanded to where it's at basically today. So it was actually established in 1951, so it has been here much longer than, of course, 1987.
Okay, thank you. I knew 87 wasn't right, but I couldn't tell you what was. Okay, Mr. McCain, you had some statements to make?
Oh, yeah, I wanted the applicant to speak about the number of employees that they currently have part and full-time, and then the number that this addition will allow them to hire.
Currently, to include owners, operators, management, and hourly personnel, we are just shy of 50 people. Call it 49, that's where we sit today, okay? With the expansion, the processing area, we can increase our volume in that expansion in what we call the kitchen area, which includes injection. Everybody here has had a corned beef or a roast beef sandwich, okay? We sell an ample amount of that to our distributor, which is LaPerry Foods, okay? LaPerry Foods now is in 48 states. We have to keep pace with LaPerry Foods, so as they grow, we need to grow, okay? Now, again, the injection portion of it will take, in reference to Mr. McCain's question, it's going to take at least 3 more people, okay, for trimming and injection. When you have processing, of course, you have to cook, then you have to package as well. So not only in the processing portion of things do you have to hire more people, you have to have more people to cook it, and you have to have more people to, of course, package it, okay? So with that said, which is a very, very confined area and of an operation, we can see automatically putting 7 people, okay, within probably a year. That's to start with, okay? Where it's going to go from there, of course, is as we grow with other markets that we have, hopefully shortly we will be the manufacturer of the Cleveland Guardians as well. So we're expanding into the arena business as well. So, but that's a different entity. So in order to answer your question, 7 people probably within the first year, just for that part of the operation. There's several parts to it, but that's just one that we want to target, that we are getting pressed to keep pace with. Okay?
Anybody have any other questions or concerns?
The only other thing I wanted to add, Chair, was that when we had our initial meeting, there were a number of different players at the table. So the city was there, the county's economic development department was there, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. So all of these entities are really pulling for this project and trying to find different ways to support it. So I can't emphasize enough how excited and enthusiastic I am about this project, and this is really the first step to help them move forward. Thank you.
All right, any questions or concerns?
My question is for city planner. Does the Class A designation, does that follow the business or the building?
Vice Chair?
Yes, please.
Okay, so Winter Sausage is requesting a Class A designation to expand their building. So this would be a Class A non-conforming use that follows the business because the use is not allowed within the zoning ordinance. But the building with the expansion is still allowed. It still meets all of the setback requirements. So it would be following the business. Does that make sense?
It does.
Thank you.
So if the business were to be sold, they would still have their non-conforming status, at that location, but what does that mean? Would they be able to expand any farther?
Vice Chair? The applicant can apply for another Class A non-conforming designation, and that could be a building non-conforming designation, but that would probably also seek a zoning board of appeals variance, a dimensional variance, if they were to seek another building change that was against the zoning ordinance. Am I answering your question? I feel like I'm not.
Sort of. Let me ask a different question.
Okay.
They get the Cleveland Guardians, they get a few other teams, they've got to expand again, still under the Winters Sausage ownership. How does that affect them? Let's say they had to put on another addition.
Okay, Vice Chair?
Yes, please.
In the future, they can ask for another Class A designation with site plan approval, but they would have to follow through with all of the dimensional requirements in the zoning ordinance. So they would have to meet all of the setback requirements as guided in the zoning ordinance, or they would have to seek a variance, but we know that the zoning board of appeals does not issue variances if there's not a physical hardship within the lot. But they're able to continue expanding as long as they do not create a nuisance to the community and there's safe traffic circulation and they continue to meet the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Question, the vice chair asked an interesting question. If they sold their business to another company, would the Class A designation change of ownership, would that follow the company or the owners?
That's a good point, Vice Chair.
Yes, please.
Okay, so the business is a non-conforming use within the specific zoning district. So the non-conformity might change if it switches to a different district, and they would have to qualify for, they wouldn't be able to switch their business into a different district that does not allow for industrial uses. Right now, they're allowed to maintain operation because they are an existing non-conforming use. And that's why we're here today to look at the non-conforming Class A waiver, but I feel like I'm still not answering your question.
No, I'm saying if the same building, that company sold the business at that location, they're not moving, they sold the business, would the Class A designation remain? Because it's a change of ownership, that's my question.
But wouldn't it depend, I'm sorry, wouldn't it depend on what would move in there?
No, I think, if I can, Mr. Broll is saying the business is remaining there, but instead of Winter Sausage, it's going to be Spring Sausage Company.
Could be, the name doesn't matter, but to your point, the rest of it was correct.
Would it be correct that the usage, what we are giving the non-conforming use for the business use? So it's already existing, even though it's been sold, it still is already existing. So we have authorized, it can be classified with a non-conforming use because it still is an existing. I don't see why the classification would change because the owner changed. The business use is existing and it still remains. I don't know if the ownership makes it a new business. Use is just a new ownership. So if it was sold, it would be sold subject to the existing business use that we've already approved for that space.
Mr. Albright?
Mr. Vice Chair, I agree with Commissioner Naylor and also the city planner that as long as it is not expanded in any way and it's just a simple change to a third party and the business is essentially a continuation of the existing business, then that would be permitted.
Okay, I think that answered
Thank you.
both of our questions.
Does Winter Sausage have just one building, one processing plant, or are there others out there I'm not aware of?
There is only one processing plant under Winter Sausage.
Okay.
We have means if we should have a problem, another facility, of course, can make product for us. They're on the East Coast.
Okay, I just have another question. I have to claim my stupidity. Cleveland Guardians, is that the baseball team or the football team?
That is a baseball team.
Okay.
Yes, they used to be the, can I say Indians?
Yes, you can say India.
Okay, thank you.
Don't sit down yet. I forgot to ask my follow-up question earlier, but now's a good point in time for it. How long have you been at this current location?
Myself personally,
No, the business.
since 51.
You actually opened the business in that building.
Myself personally? No.
Well, again, I'm
Myself
referring to the
personally, I've
company.
been there 35 years,
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just asking how long the business has been at that address.
since 1951.
Okay,
Can I sit down?
for a moment.
To be answered this time.
Ms. Brazaszewski, you look like you're chomping at the bit to say something there. No? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Ms. Brazaszewski, would you review your report on this?
Okay, we have a recommended motion to grant a Class A non-conforming designation to parcel ID numbers 021431151037 and 021431151039, commonly known as 22001 and 22011 Gratiot, for the continued operation and expansion of a food processing and manufacturing facility based on the fact that the applicant will perform site enhancements to be in further compliance with the zoning ordinance. The business has been lawful since its establishment in 1951, and allowing the use to expand will not harm the health, safety, and welfare of the community. We grant this motion with the following conditions as outlined in the planner's report dated October 26, 2023. And these standards in this motion are site plan conditions of approval, but I figured I would include them in here, especially the topic of landscaping, because the planning commission has the right to waive or ask for a payment in lieu of landscaping. So that's something for the planning commission to consider tonight. But the first condition is to address standards 15219A and 15219A for everyone in the audience is the component of the zoning ordinance that regulates Class A nonconformities, and we list the standards of approval. So for 52219A, standards 1, 2, 3, and 6, the applicant must address where the dumpster enclosure will be placed on the site plan. And if the dumpster is located outdoors, then it must have an enclosure. The dumpster might be located indoors, but this is just for the applicant to know. To address 52219A standards 1, 2, 3, and 6, the applicant must provide the required landscaping. As I mentioned, planning commission can waive or require payment in lieu of landscaping. And then to address 52209A6, the applicant must combine all of the parcels before construction of the addition.
Okay, I guess since they haven't provided some of this information, it's going to be kind of hard to discuss.
Vice Chair?
Yes,
We have the architect in the room, so we might be able to get the dimensions of the frontages to understand basics of the amount of deciduous and ornamental trees and shrubs. Maybe planning commission might want to consider waiving the rest, but requiring frontage landscaping, or at least a payment in lieu of frontage landscaping.
so we would be looking at your landscaping chart on page 8 of the report. And site trees. So we we would need to know how many site trees they would need and where they would be planted.
Vice Chair. And if I may,
Yes, please.
to the architect. Hello, Architect Sherry. Nice to see you. Do you have, for the record, the length of frontage along Gratiot and Crescentwood?
Do we know the distance?
Yes.
Along Gratiot, the city has just, poured new sidewalks and curbing and all that, and they have just sodded all that landscaping along Gratiot, and for several blocks, there's no trees at all. So we're not really proposing to put in any trees on Gratiot in our plan, because there's no trees for 3 or 4 blocks in both directions. And the city really removed the planters and the concrete that was there. They removed the concrete, poured a new sidewalk, and then landscaped with just grass from the new sidewalk to the curb, and a new curb they put in.
I do have a question on there. Were there trees on Gratiot prior to that construction or reconstruction?
No,
Okay.
not by us. I mean, I don't know up the road, but there was not.
No, I'm speaking specifically of
Yeah.
your
No,
properties.
it was concrete all the way, it was actually concrete from the face of the building to the curb. They took it out and put in new sewers or water and stuff.
Okay, well, I was just asking if there had been any trees
No.
there prior to that. Okay.
Vice Chair.
Yes, please.
The zoning ordinance requires tree frontages along roads, Gratiot, Crescentwood, along arterial roads and streets. It doesn't matter if there were no trees there previously, the zoning ordinance requires it.
I understand that. My question was from the standpoint of if they had the required number of trees there and the city removed them in the process of construction, then the city should be responsible for replacing them. But since there were no trees there, then yes, the applicant is going to have to shoulder that responsibility in my line of thinking.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
So the frontage on Gratiot is?
Oh, we have, our total frontage on Gratiot is about 100 feet. It's 40, let's see, 9, 5, there's a couple of lots, so it's 30, 84 feet, 84 and a half feet.
And what about on Crescentwood?
Well, on Crescentwood, so our property goes back quite a ways on Crescentwood. So it goes back 80, 160, 365 feet. And on Crescentwood, the first, roughly the first 120 foot is a building from the corner going back that's built right on the property line, back roughly 123 feet. Then
Allowing our city planner, Ms. Brzezowski, to use her slide rule over there to calculate what we're at?
Vice Chair.
Yes, please.
Architect, did you say that Gratiot frontage was 85 or 100?
no, it's let me tell you. There's 3 lots. One is 39 feet, one is 46 feet, and the other one is about the same, about 50 feet. So it would be 139 feet
Thank you.
from drive to drive, or from lot.
Ms. Brzezowski, do you have an answer?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Okay, so the applicant is required per ordinance to provide, and this is at the discretion of the planning commission, 18 deciduous trees along Crescent Wood, 7 ornamental trees along Crescent Wood, 73 shrubs along Crescent Wood, and then along Gratiot, 7 deciduous trees, 3 ornamental trees, and 28 shrubs. This is all the parking lot frontage landscaping requirement on page 8.
May I have a question? I'm looking at the side lot currently, is all cemented, just seems to be sidewalk to the curb. So they have to bust up the concrete.
Vice Chair?
Yes, please.
That's why today we are discussing a potential waiver of landscaping or payment in lieu of landscaping, because for a reoccupancy or an addition of this nature that is small, we do not think that it's reasonable to ask the applicant to excavate the concrete.
There's utilities there too.
I am sitting here stunned again, much like I was with a previous reoccupancy and need for trees in that. I just did some quick math here. It looks like we're asking them to put in 35 trees. That makes me again question if we are having an excessive amount of landscaping requirement regardless of the business. I'm questioning maybe we should reconsider some spacing requirements, but that's another topic for another time. I don't know how the commissioners feel, but I sure would like to know.
My Vice Chair, I would recommend we waive that. Looking at the region, there's not even a lot of space along the side of the building on Crescent, and where we're going all the way down the side of the building to the end of the lot is parking structures. I know we say there should be a buffer, but there's actually nothing there. There's not even a lot of sidewalk in that space by the parking lot. And then across the front, which was completely demolished by the city, where there would have been pots to plant, they've all been removed and just put grass because there's new utilities running there. My recommendation would be that we waive that requirement. And then looking at the utilities going down the side of the building, I would think that you may run into other issues if they were even asked to move things. We also have a hydrant on the corner, so there's water lines and everything. It looks like the hydrant was removed.
Anyone else have any questions or opinions on the plantings on this site?
I'm not sure exactly how I feel. However, I would say at a maximum, the calculation, because this is an existing business, the calculation should be based, if we were to do it, the calculation should be based on frontage that has greenway on it. Like, the point was brought up about the fact that Crescentwood is largely concrete. Like, we're not gonna ask them to bust up the concrete, but you can make an argument that there are strips that, Greenway that could have trees. You could make that argument, but I wouldn't, for me, the calculation would not include the cement portion, which is the majority of it.
I agree with Ms. Naylor that it should be waived, the requirement.
All of it or part of it?
All of it.
I,
And if she makes that motion, I'll second.
well, we're not at that point yet, but thank you for that information. Okay, I'm just spitballing here. If we are going to try to use a PIL, payment in lieu of landscaping, at least on the tree portion of this, that is one heck of a large pill to swallow. $17,500 that they would have to make payment to the city for the trees. I think we really need to look at our tree requirements when we're looking at a financial burden of that. Just hitting my gut that it's excessive. I would say, since there's now a green belt on the Gratiot side, I'd like to see if they could accommodate us with some plantings on the Gratiot side. And I would actually be willing to waive completely plantings on the Crescentwood side because of the hardship there.
Vice Chair.
Yes, please.
Can we, as we continue this conversation, can we differentiate between the proposed landscaping? Because the applicant does propose some shrubs and 2 trees. I'm pretty sure they're ornamental trees. Along Crescentwood.
The numbers that I wrote down when you were speaking, and if I got them right, were 7 and 3 on the trees for a total of 10 trees on Gratiot, between ornamental and deciduous.
Yes, but I just want to be clear that we'll keep the landscaping as outlined along Crescentwood in their preliminary site plan. On page,
Yeah,
last page. of
I
the-
see what you have there on page 8. You're still asking
No.
for,
Sorry, Chair. Vice Chair. On the last page of the review, the applicant provides the preliminary site plan, and they outline 2 trees, and it looks like a couple shrubs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 shrubs and 2 trees. I'm not sure what they are. Oh, one is, okay, there's 2 flowering crab trees, and then 8 shrubs. I am asking the commission to maintain these landscaping as is along Crescentwood in the site plan, not waive entirely all landscaping along Crescentwood. Maintain this, but as you journey on discussing Gratiot, please continue.
okay, I believe I'm understanding what you're saying. Although it doesn't meet our requirements, you're asking or suggesting that we approve their suggestion for Crescentwood.
Chair.
Yes. Okay.
With the consideration of adding some more landscaping along Gratiot.
Okay. Commission?
I still feel the notion of waiving. I see what's there currently on Crescent side. These 2 parking lots. I mean, we're not trying to make a jungle. I mean, there's a tree there, looking at what I'm seeing, and there's some grass. The tree is covering the whole site, so it wouldn't even be a whole lot of sunlight hitting the shrubs to make sure that they were to be sustained. That area that they're showing I mean, they may have proposed it, but I don't see how much impact it's gonna make when everything else is concrete on this area. It's not even, what's that, 8 feet? So you put shrubs, you could put a small hedgery there. But this tree with the root system of this size tree, I don't know how sustainable they're gonna be, just from a landscaper standpoint. The tree's gonna absorb most of that moisture. It might be in a nice drawing, but that is not sustainable. I mean, as a mature tree, it's gonna win over the shrubs. You can't even dig in that. That's a mature tree. Now, I see that little bit of grass there, between the sidewalk and the street. If they want to put something there, maybe so. But where I see a drawing where the tree exists, I think that would be, I don't agree with tearing up concrete for the trees because we don't know what you're going to find under the concrete. And I'm seeing utility lines. I just don't know if it's the best idea. Also, there was a hydrant on the corner initially. I don't know if that's been capped off or you're going to hit some water lines that could hit water down the street for any other fire hydrants. That's just my take on it from a perspective. If they want to put something on that sidewalk between the sides, it may, but the front, there's grass that's there. If they want to put trees on the front, if I'm going to put any trees, I will put it on Grash's side and leave the concrete as is. That's my recommendation. Since the city has already made grass available for them on the front, work with the grass that's been made available, but bust up more concrete doesn't make sense to me.
I have to agree with what Ms. Nail said, Chairman. I have
Okay.
to agree with what Ms. Nail is saying, to look at the photos here.
I think they're trying to get those up for the rest of us to view.
Play with the grass the city has already made available.
Yeah.
That tree will kill anything. Experiencing all of this. So there's a hydrant in the corner.
Vice Chair, we have the preliminary site plan up for review, and as you can see along Crescent Wood, we propose this shrub, line of shrubs, and then 2 crab trees. So we would recommend that the applicant maintain this proposed amount of landscaping, and then increase landscaping along Gratiot.
Can we get a street view of that up there right now? So that we can evaluate between what is currently there and what is being proposed. Yes, sir.
My name's Tom Trombley. I've been sitting there quietly. I've just been consulting with Winter Sausage on this project, but I do have a picture of Gratiot, if you care to see it, after the landscaping was installed. That's current Gratiot after the sewer project.
Yeah, like I said, there's plenty of space to put all the trees on the front because they've already opened up grass. This is all that's on the side of the building. We agree. Yes, we're in agreement. Use the greenery we've already created. There's another question. Vice Chair? There's another question on the floor?
Yes.
One thing I'd like the board to consider is along Gratiot Avenue, we have a lot of inbound semi-trucks coming southbound and turning right onto Crescent Wood, okay? Trees could be a blind spot for, and Crescent Wood, as you know, is a school street. A lot of school buses go down because at the end of it, we have a school down there. I just want to consider that if we do plant trees along Gratiot Avenue, that we have to cosmetically space them out to give room for the side street of Crescent Wood to come into view for semi-trucks. It's very important.
Yes, we do have clear vision triangles at intersections that would have to be complied with.
City planner. So the two ornamental trees, the crab apples, are going, can you just clarify where they're going, where that existing tree is?
Yeah, those are the, right, if you see the parking lot there, they're the existing ones there, kind of where that white truck is parked, is where we're talking about putting some more shrubbery along there. But out on Gratiot, we would request a variance not to put trees. There's no trees out on Gratiot at all now for blocks. And to put 10 trees out there, we're talking about a tree every 15 feet. So that's, I mean, we're talking about heavily landscaping that, which we would request not to put trees on Gratiot. So it's like everybody else. And back here, that house is also landscaped. That house is, part of our property, but it's staying. So we already have a wall between the residential use, even though it's not, it's a residential use to our use, So the only landscaping we're really talking about is right, this grass is already here, but we're talking about putting some bushes right along the inside of the lot there. Which is okay to do, it doesn't, it does something, it gives you some green.
Vice Chair, I would be open to using the green space that he mentioned for some shrubbery, because there are two trees already on the premises, if they put shrubbery in the green space on their side of the sidewalk. For Crescent.
Okay. I believe along that green space on Crescentwood, they're going to be, or it was proposed, they were putting up a 3-foot knee wall.
Is that eight bushes?
Yes.
As screening. I'd rather see a landscape screening instead of a 3-foot masonry wall in that space. I think that would kill two birds with one stone.
Chair,
Yes.
the site plan in front of us today, and thank you, Community Economic Development Manager McCain, for enlarging the screening area. Thank you. You can see that a 3-foot masonry wall is proposed in the lawn area to the south end of the site, in addition to 8 shrubs and 2 crab trees. So there's a 3-foot masonry wall, and then there's a 4-foot, okay, so I didn't catch that. There's a this is part of the site plan review, but there's a 4-foot, 6-inch wall that needs to be reduced to 3 feet. But that will be part of the administrative site plan review. So, Chair, we're not discussing the site plan that is approved administratively. We're discussing any waivers in landscaping.
Well, I can tell you, we could try to do some landscaping, but we'd really like to say we'd like a waiver on it, because we really don't want to try to force landscaping where it isn't going to work.
City planner. So where those 2 crab trees are, is that where that existing tree currently is?
Vice Chair?
Yes, please.
Architect, can you please answer this question?
Yeah, well, you saw the picture. That's the existing trees there now. Yes. In the one photograph. If you go back to the photograph, it shows a couple of trees right there. And that's
Okay, so
where-
those are the 2 trees already existing?
Yep.
Okay. So those aren't additional crab trees going in?
No, no.
Got it.
They're existing. And we'd keep those. I mean, they're fine. They're growing, put it that way.
What I'm seeing on that drawing doesn't appear to be matching what I'm seeing on Street View here. It's telling me it's 2023. And on the Gratiot side, it already shows that concrete has been removed and it's presently dirt. So.
Conditions just confused, because there's one tree here and one over here.
Yeah, those are existing. We're planning on keeping those trees.
Well,
But
'cause
we can
I-
rip them out and put in new ones if you don't like them.
I think they think you're saying that
Yeah.
the two are on the right, but there's
Oh,
one there,
there's
and
just
then
one.
there's the bushes there.
So I would say we'd want to keep this tree growing.
Right.
If you want us to put new ones in, we'll pull it out and put new ones in.
And then keep it.
Well, on that
Yes.
I think
drawing,
that's
it
what's
looks
going
like those
Yeah.
two there.
It's not showing.
The other one looks like it's more centered, so it has to be removed and
Okay, so you'd be planting.
replaced with two
I think
others.
it'd be better to keep one large one that we have, or we can take them out and put two little trees in there. So you can, you know, it's really up to what you guys want us
Okay.
to do.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, there's one,
yeah.
two.
So what was shown here is where we show two trees here, there's one larger tree there today. So I guess the question is, if you want us to put two trees there, we'd take out the large one and put two little trees in. But I would think it'd be
Say the
better to
mature
leave the
tree.
large one that's growing there
I don't want
and
to
leave it
take
as
out a
it is
mature.
No,
existing.
not going to- That's a mature tree. My, Vice Chair, I would recommend if we add the, according to the planner asking about maintaining the side view on Crescent, we have an existing mature tree that covers that entire space where the drawings show too. We keep the existing tree. If we want to add the 8 shrubberies, there's a small tree there, it looks like, on the end of those 8 shrubberies, a small tree, if this site is, then just put shrubberies from the end of that tree to the edge of the driveway.
Talking at the west end of the property.
Yes. If you want to add the shrubberies on the west side of Crescent, that's what I would see. But to remove a tree, I see one tree at the end where they show masonry wall. There's a tree it shows on my drawing at the end, and then there's a mature tree.
And actually, there's another tree back at the back.
Exactly.
An
On the back
existing
end, there's
one
a
that-
tree, and then there's one tree in the middle. So there could be shrubbery on the end of there that I would be, if we have to do some on the Crescent side. So one of those shrubs is actually a tree.
Yeah.
Last one is actually a tree already.
Well, we're going to remove the tree and put shrubs in, but I would say let's keep
We
the
add shrubbery
trees.
to the,
If you would approve keeping the existing trees, if we want to add some shrubbery, we can.
yes.
But to take out the trees just to
No.
put new ones in, to meet the ordinances, it's up to you. But I would, we would prefer to keep them and add some shrubbery.
All right, I have to ask a question, because I looked at one of the older photos of the Crescentwood side, and right in this area here,
There's a tree.
purple one really doesn't show up well, does it?
Yeah, I can
You
see
see
it.
it?
But in that area, on one of the older photos, it shows like that may be used as a parking location for your delivery truck.
No, we're redoing the parking striping, so we're moving them back some in that line. So we're keeping that landscaping line there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Planning Commission, we've heard Commissioner Naylor's suggestion.
Keep the trees, we can put some shrubs, call it a day.
Sorry, what was that, Madam Secretary?
Mr. Mayor, ask the city planner a question.
Pardon?
Want to speak to the city planner?
Oh, absolutely, please.
So it appears you were asking that we keep the Crescent according to the site plan, and just looking at what we're finding, the fact that we see 2 trees, but they're not in the side-by-side, but on each end, and we add shrubbery, would that Because where you show the 8 bushes, that 8th bush to the far west is literally a tree already. So if we added the other shrubbery, that would be the small modification, just the location of the 2 trees, and then putting the shrubbery where there's room to fit, instead of 7, 8. Would that be acceptable?
Vice Chair?
I'll make a comment and then you may speak. I think what's acceptable is up to us to decide, but I will be willing to entertain Ms. Brazaszewski's opinion or recommendation.
Vice Chair?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Naylor. Yes, we do recommend also maintaining the existing trees and adding shrubbery as able. And then now, Community Economic Development Manager McCain, if the Planning Commission wishes, has moved the screen over to Gratiot, if we would like to discuss any potential landscaping along Gratiot.
Commissioners, are you okay with that?
I'm okay with no landscaping.
Commissioner Lalonde? Roll.
I'd be okay with it, yes.
Secretary?
Waiving Gratiot?
No.
Oh.
No, approving what we've discussed on Crescentwood, which is to allow the mature trees to stay,
Right, which I pointed
but with
out.
the addition of additional shrubbery.
I'm in agreement.
All right. So yes, I think we've tied down the Crescentwood portion of it. I do think we need to get some trees on Gratiot. There will be more trees going in on Gratiot as we proceed. So what may have been there and ripped out, or what may have never existed in the past, really is not of much significance.
Vice Chair, would the city have removed the concrete and planted grass there? Are there plans for trees to be planted there now? Do we know why they converted to grass? Or is there planning from the city standpoint in that right-of-way? I know there was some utility replacement, but did the city have any plans for that right-of-way use? Do we have a way
I
to
will
know?
defer that to administration.
Vice Chair?
Yes, Mr. McCain.
So one of the things, as I think most, if not all of you know by now, that the city is working on is planting trees throughout both residential as well as commercial corridors, especially as it corresponds with different construction projects, including the water main replacements along Gratiot between 8 and 9 Mile Road. So while the city has not identified where exactly those trees are going to go, it is something that we're looking into and pursuing through our partnership and in receiving trees through Macomb County's Planning and Economic Development Department. Thank you.
Did that answer your question, Commissioner Naylor?
It did, but I was just wondering if we're going to have redundancy. I mean, we have a business that's been a part of this city, since 1951, and if we're going to be agree that they can do the Class A non-conforming to continue to be a part of the city and instead of being absorbed into a wider space, expanding somewhere else. If we knew what the city was planning to do, I know we want to plant trees, and I remember one of our meetings that they have a bulk purchase or some negotiated pricing that we maybe coordinate what the city's doing and maybe add instead of putting that onus on the business owners so that we can make sure we don't impose them excessively when they're already investing to expand to be a part of our community. If the city has plans for tree planting, maybe we find out what that is and coordinate accordingly. Just so that the business continue to support the city as they've attempted to do.
Because right now, currently, looking at the photo, that is all greenery now. That's green space. So I have to agree with Ms. Naylor at this point in time. Why would we want to disturb that? especially when we're not fully aware of what the city's plan is as far as where they're planting the trees.
Well, their plan is to plant the trees there. It is a requirement, whether it's a nonconformance that is being expanded or in addition to a conforming building, that it's generally brought up to the current landscape standards, which I'm having more and more difficulty with. I believe Commissioner Naylor used the comment jungle. And when I'm
Well, it's
seeing the
so-
number of trees they're trying to require on this site, yeah, I'm just waiting to hear the call of Tarzan. But I don't think it would be out of line to come up with a number of trees that we ask the applicant to plant. Because that would happen whether this was a conformance or non-conformance, or if it was new construction. The whole intent of the PIL, the payment in lieu of landscaping, was try to have some equity between those that may have the opportunity to plant required landscaping and those that where it's just absolutely impossible. So a couple of trees on the Gratiot side, I believe, are definitely in order. The question is where and how many. We've pretty much cleared up the situation on Crescentwood. So, but then again, I'm one vote on this commission. There are 5 other people here this evening. So, I would definitely agree as I'm looking at it, that one somewhat triangular, that pie piece right there on the corner of Crescentwood and Gratiot, I would not want to see a tree there. Just for the concern brought up by the applicant between truck traffic and school bus traffic. Any landscaping there should probably be of low level. But I'm seeing what is appearing to be 1, 2, 3 other sections from the point of that to the other end of the building that could possibly accommodate some trees. And I believe the recommendation on that was, where did I write that down? I believe it was 7 and 3 for the Gratiot side. Ms. Brazaszewski, do you remember what the recommendation was?
Chair, or Vice Chair?
Yes.
Ordinance requirements for Gratiot are 7 deciduous, 3 ornamental, and 28 shrubs. However, healthy tree planting spacing is 20 feet per tree. So if you would like the planning recommendation, we would recommend 1 deciduous tree per patch. So it'd be 3 deciduous trees with shrubs in the corner triangle, and the shrubs cannot exceed a height above 30 inches.
Commission? For what it's worth, I'm okay with that recommendation.
1 tree per patch.
So we have a consensus on that?
Yes, 1 tree per patch.
Okay.
So, as the architect, I would think the 3 trees are good. I think some shrubs we have a grass out there now, and to put a couple of shrubs out there is really not going to be, I mean, what are they going to accomplish and what are they going to be to maintain? If we put some 3 larger trees out there, so you talk about trees, I guess we got to, at some point, I think the 3 trees are a good idea. I think some larger kind of trees that are going to grow larger, but we have to deal with trees that'll take the salt, from the road. So our landscaper will, he would know. I know in the past, he's talked about what.
We also have to be concerned if there's utilities under there with root depth.
So I think the trees are fine. I don't think the shrubs do anything for us there.
Other than meet our requirements.
Yeah. Would like to waive them.
Vice Chair?
Yes, Mr. McCain.
In addition to, as I think you were alluding to, needing to follow the city zoning ordinance requirements on the different kinds of trees that we allow or don't allow, the city's Economic Development Department has also developed a list of trees that are ideal to be planted along residential and commercial streets, including those that would be salt resistant. So happy to share that with the applicant.
Yeah.
Oh, and it is on our website now, too, on the planning department.
That's the 9 trees on the PDF? Okay.
That's correct, Vice Chair. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Brazaszewski, are you understanding what the Planning Commission is doing in terms of landscaping on Gratiot now?
Vice Chair,
Yes.
are you looking for me to facilitate a motion?
Yes, if you want to start preparing that.
Okay.
But don't we have some other items that are still outstanding?
Vice Chair, in regards to landscaping, I'd recommend the Planning Commission consider waiving all landscaping requirements besides planting 3 deciduous trees along Gratiot and shrubs that do not exceed 30 inches in height in each of the 4 grass patches along Gratiot, and then maintain the existing trees along Crescent Wood, and maintain the proposed shrubs along Crescent Wood.
Okay.
Mr. Vice Chair, I have a question
Yes, Commissioner Burrow.
for the city planner. City planner, can you explain the third bullet point, why you are suggesting the applicant must combine the parcels before construction of the addition?
Vice Chair?
Yes.
This is standard administrative procedures for a project to combine their adjacent parcels into one address.
What's involved with that? What is the process? Enlighten me.
The applicant applies for a parcel combination form with the assessor, and I believe if Community Economic Development Manager McCain or Attorney Albright knows, I think it's addressed administratively.
I believe it's addressed administratively. That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair, from my understanding, combining parcels is cleaning up properties and making the city more succinct.
No, I understand it. Rather than having 5 parcels pertaining to one business, you now only have 1 parcel. Yeah, it cleans up a lot of
One tax bill.
clutter, for lack of another word, when it comes to legal descriptions and so forth. They just did that down at 8 and Kelly for the proposed dispensary down there. They combined, I believe it was 3 lots, and through a clerical error, it ended up on a city council agenda only to be discovered it did not need city council approval. It was an administrative approval on that. Okay, so we have the landscape requirements specified. What about the dumpster? Ms. Brazaszewski?
Yeah, Vice Chair, the dumpster enclosure can be addressed administratively. I just wanted to be upfront about any potential changes, but hindsight could just leave that comment for administrative discussion.
And then the
So,
same
sorry
would
about
go
that.
for the mechanical and utility screening as well as the loading zone screening. since the site plan is going to be administratively approved. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so our only obligation was to the landscaping, which we have put to rest. Okay, are there any other questions? Seeing none, if Ms. Brazaszewski would give us a proposed motion.
Vice Chair,
Yes.
Attorney Albright, do you wish for me to read the, all of the parcel numbers and entire motion, or amend the motion? Okay, so I recommend to amend the motion briefly stated about 30 minutes ago and add in that the applicant must provide 3 deciduous trees along Gratiot, 1 per each grass patch. Provide shrubs in the corner grass patch that do not exceed 30 inches, no jungles here, in height. And also maintain the existing trees along Crescentwood and install the proposed shrubs as the preliminary site plan lays out along Crescentwood.
All right. Someone willing to make that motion?
I motion to accept the landscaping modifications as presented by the city planner.
I'll second.
Okay, I'm not comfortable with that motion because you've narrowed it down to landscaping only. And she was just
Yeah, the other
explaining the changes to the entire motion that we need to approve for this.
I thought she said that was going to be done administratively. The other points, we just need to focus on the landscaping. Did I misunderstand?
Okay, then I misunderstood. All right, do we have support for that motion?
I support.
Okay, that was Commissioner Naylor with support from Commissioner Lalonde. Any other comments? Secretary, call the roll.
Pardon me, Ms. Naylor,
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde,
Yes.
Mr. Broll,
Yes.
Julinski, yes. Ms. Moody,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lubeck.
Yes. Okay, you've received your approval. I'm sure you'll be in contact with the city in order to cross all the Ts, dot all the Is, and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you for choosing to stay in our city.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you for choosing to stay with East Point. Had no idea you guys had been there since '51. Me either. All right, let's move on to new business. Item B, consider approving the site plan extension for 21145 Gratiot Holistic Health. Ms. Brazaszewski?
Thank you, Vice Chair. We are reviewing the potential extension of a site plan for 21145 Gratiot. So a little backstory, on February 2nd, the Planning Commission granted conditional site plan approval for a provisioning center. And per the ordinance, the site plan expires in 1 year after receiving Planning Commission approval. But bear with me here, I really want you guys to understand this bit. For the site plan not to expire, the applicant must obtain a building permit or commence construction with 1 year of site plan approval. So that means that they have to pull a building permit by February 2nd, 2024. And then the applicant requests a 1 year site plan extension. But if we look down to, on the memo that I provided, the marijuana ordinance restriction, within Article, Section 10-266, that outlines standards for marijuana provisioning centers, and the standard states that applicants have only 1 year following the date of initial city approval to complete construction of the building. And so that would mean that the initial city approval would mean, as our city attorney has analyzed, it means the final site plan approval. So after final site plan approval, the applicant will only have 1 year to complete full construction of the building. And we know that there's been delays in construction and supply chain challenges, so a 1-year turnaround for a newly constructed site is not feasible. So we have a sample motion in front of us to grant a 1-year extension, or up to 1-year extension, I should say, for 21145 Gratiot, by which the developer will have until February 2nd, 2025 to submit a revised site plan and apply for a building permit. And we have the attorney, David Rudoy, here today, who has also provided a letter petitioning site plan extension.
Commissioners, any questions? I think the report and memo from the city planner was specific and to the point explaining the situation. Mr. Albright, did you have something you'd like to add?
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair, the only thing I would recommend, there is a sample motion attached to the agenda. I would just add that after the words marijuana provisioning center, that the maker of the motion, if there is going to be a motion, add the words for good cause. Just so we have that language in there, for good cause.
Vice Chair.
Yes, please.
If I could take this learning opportunity, City Attorney, could you explain your reasoning?
Under section 50-46, it provides, it uses the language good cause in there. So I'm just looking for a little more particularity in the motion itself. And I think that the good cause, assuming this planning commission finds that the good cause could be the fact that, as the planner pointed out in the memo, that the turnaround for newly constructed project is not feasible, given supply chain challenges and delays in construction. That's all I had, Mr. Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Any concerns? If not,
I have a question.
okay, Commissioner Moody.
Granting the extension for 1 year, is it only one time? Or just a one-time extension?
That's my belief based on the order. I would leave it to the city attorney, but my belief is, should I step up there?
Actually, I was just going to ask the city planner and/or the city attorney to answer that question.
Yes.
I think he's more well suited to.
They only allow one extension?
Vice Chair, yes, they can only ask for 1-year extension one time.
And
So-
I echo Ms. Brzezowski's comment.
So this is a one-shot deal.
Yes.
They don't get it done by 2020, February 2nd, 2025, then they start
Yes.
over.
And Vice Chair, if I may to have this platform to say, other zoning ordinances that we are rewriting allow for 2 years for the applicant to have their site plan to be expired. So Eastport's a little quick with the 1-year turnaround. Maybe this body wants to consider amending that in the future to have 2-year turnaround.
Okay, thank you for that. Comment that's on my mind, I will wait for commissioner comments to make. So, the motion is in order. Okay, I'll make a motion to grant a 1-year extension to 21145 Gratiot Avenue, Marijuana Provisioning Center, for good cause, by which the developer has until February 2nd, 2025 to submit a revised site plan and file for a building permit.
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Moody. I'm sorry, Naylor. Secretary, call the roll unless
Vice
there's
Chair
any
Lubeck.
comments.
Yeah, I have a comment, I have a question. So in your motion, it says that by which the developer has until February 2nd, 2025 to submit a revised site plan and file for a building permit. A revised site plan, does that mean shovel in the ground? What does that mean exactly? Like, I know what a revised site plan means, but file for a building permit normally means the building's ready to go, right? That means construction should be done by February 2nd.
It's permitted.
What does it mean?
It's permitted.
That's what
for
I'm
building.
asking.
It's permitted for building. Doesn't mean it's gonna be completed in that time.
Means they have, in my mind, it means they have an approved site plan and that they've already filed the paperwork to get the building permit.
So, let's say they meet that deadline, when does construction have to start? I'm just curious. Or when does it have to be completed? What is the measuring stick?
Well, okay, I guess that's a good question, because usually, after a building permit is issued, I believe they have 1 year as long as they are actually progressing with the construction. I don't know if that's correct, Attorney Albright?
I believe that's correct, City Planner.
Yeah. Vice Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so there's a couple conversations going on, but the applicant has 1 year after site plan approval to provide a newly constructed building. That is per the marijuana ordinance. However, there's a provision, if you hang in here with me, in the marijuana ordinance, that if the applicant does not have a newly constructed building within 1 year, they can appeal to the marijuana committee, who are the city representatives that first allowed for their applicant to go through, and request an extension. But for your, Commissioner Broll, previous comment asking about what needs to happen for a site plan to be approved, well, the applicant needs to submit a site plan that's revised and it provides all of the conditions of approval that the Planning Commission and City Council directed and the planner directed within their site plan. And then the next step is to submit a construction set of documents and receive approval for that. And then they're geared up to pull a building permit. And they have 1 year to pull the building permit to demonstrate that they are meeting site plan until their site plan expires.
So my question would be, once they pull the building permit and they have the site plan, how long from that point forward can we expect the building to be completed, and that they're in operation? Is there a deadline on that?
Yes, Vice Chair?
Yes.
Per the marijuana ordinance, there's a 1 year turnaround deadline. After final site plan approval, which is the city's initial approval, you can see in the packet, under marijuana ordinance restriction, that the applicants have 1 year following the date of city initial approval to complete construction of the building.
Okay,
And the final site plan approval is the city initial approval.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. But we, Vice Chair, there's room for the applicant, if that's not feasible, to appeal and get an extension from the Marijuana Review Committee.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question?
Sure, why not?
I got a little lost there. I just want to make sure I'm properly understanding. So this would allow an extension of final site plan approval. Are you saying that we would have, based on the marijuana ordinance, 1 year from the final site plan approval, like this final step, or 1 year from when the site plan was approved by City Council on February 21st of 2023?
Vice Chair?
Yes, please.
You would have 1 year of, 1 year to pull a building permit after you submit your final site plan and your final site plan is approved.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So whenever your final site plan is approved, you have 1 year.
Okay.
And right now, we're petitioning the Planning Commission to have a final site plan and get all everything in order until February of next year, or 2025.
If I may make just a brief statement, I just want to we are not intending on using that entire year to get to final site plan. We have been working with the city diligently to get there. We just wanted to make sure we have all our ducks in a row and are not getting up to that line, as there's been a back and forth working with the city and our architects and everything else. I do believe that although an extension, we are requesting an extension, we're not going to need that full year, although I understand the extension can only be for 1 year. We intend on starting construction as soon as possible, hopefully weather permitting early spring.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have motion and support. Was there any other questions or comments? Secretary, please call the roll.
Vice Chair Lubeck,
Yes.
Ms. Naylor,
Yes.
Mr. Broll,
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde,
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Ms. Moody,
Yes.
Okay, new business item C, consider recommending approval for a payment in lieu of landscaping process and fee, the PIL. We discussed this at some length last month. I have only one question about it, and that is, I'm unclear based on the way that it is written, but are we actually approving the individual and multiple pricings as part of the ordinance? Please.
Vice Chair, thank you. So my colleague, Zoning Administrator Smith, brought this project forward last month, and this project does not need further consideration from the Planning Commission. We reviewed your comments, and the next step would be for City Council to approve the payment in lieu of landscaping via a fee schedule amendment. So the payment in lieu of landscaping, the prices of each tree would not be within an ordinance, it would be within the fee schedule. So we are not asking for any amendments to the zoning ordinance. This is just, if you will, a receive and file.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was the one that objected to having prices in an ordinance, which becomes rather cumbersome to modify as opposed to putting in a fee schedule, which is reviewed, adjusted, and approved at budget time every year. So, does anybody else have any questions on this? If not,
question.
yes.
Vice Chair. Yeah, I know we discussed the schedule in great length. My question is, I had also asked about like the bundle and save. You know, like if there's multiple businesses within a certain time period, you know, for them to get a cheaper price if they could like all order their trees. Would that be like a case-by-case basis? Would that be administrative? Or are we flat on this?
Vice Chair?
Yes, please.
I do not have an answer for you, but I can correspond to Brigitte Smith and ask her your question. Can you restate your question? And I will give you the response as a commission, to the entire commission.
Just think of the Progressive commercial, bundle and save.
I liked it. I reviewed the minutes. I heard you say that last time, so I thought that was.
Yeah, so if there were like, you know, a couple of projects going on where they needed trees, just to not be so cumbersome on the businesses, you know, if they could order them together and
Okay.
get the cheaper discounted price, so to speak.
Okay, thank you. Like a solidarity spring tree payment.
It was just a thought.
Like a cooperative.
Okay.
All right, so we are ready then
Well,
For a
hold on second.
motion or?
Hold on a second. So looking at the schedule, I've got a couple adjustments or amendments or one thought. So the 1 to 3 trees is actually 1 tree, right? So that should be revised. The first row should be revised to 1 tree.
Yes, but the correction last month too. It just probably was.
We did talk about that same?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was just not corrected.
Oh, okay. There's a couple other things then. Well, okay, well, we don't have 8 trees is listed on here either. So we've got 5, yes, 8 one's the bonus tree. So it goes 5 to 7, then 9 to 11. So that should be,
Thank you.
Yeah, we asked that to be modified last time. Somebody must have just forgotten.
okay. And then I've got 2 more. So then, no, I've got 1 more. So this is odd. If you look at 17 trees versus 18 trees, it's actually more expensive for 17 trees. And the math works, right, because each tree is worth a certain value, but the logic doesn't work. So if you look at 17 trees, you will pay $4,675, but if you have 18 trees, you pay less. So it pays to have more trees.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make sense, though. Does it make sense to everybody here?
The more cheaper it gets, right? So that's the next threshold of getting cheaper.
You're right. You're right about that. I don't know where yeah, you're exactly right. My note was off on that.
But you're not noticing 11 trees will cost you just as much as 12?
Well, I did notice that too. I did notice that. No, but yeah, the comment about 17 versus 18 is correct. You're right.
So just the numbering needs to be corrected on the breakouts. It should
No,
be
wait.
It should
No,
be 9 to
no,
12.
no,
and
my
then
wait, I'm sorry.
13 to 17.
No, I'm sorry. My logic is this. If you're paying for 17 trees, you shouldn't pay more than if you have 18 trees. So that doesn't make sense. The schedule doesn't make sense the way the math works. It's true.
I mean,
The
every
logic
threshold
doesn't
is
work.
getting less, so if you're going up to
You're
17.
paying more for 18 trees than 17 trees?
You said the 18 is 4,500
Correct.
per tree.
Not per tree.
I mean, for the.
250 per tree.
Okay, so 18 becomes 4,500.
Right, and the math is correct. I'm simply saying the logic isn't there that you actually will pay more if you have less trees. It doesn't work. That's,
The more you buy, the cheaper.
every other step, though, your aggregate, forget about the individual price, it's the aggregate I'm talking about. So if you take, for instance, 9 to 11, 3,300. And 12 to 7 is also 3,300. I get it. But if you have 17 trees, you're penalized more aggregate dollars than if you have 18 trees. It doesn't make sense. Does that make sense to you guys?
No, I understand absolutely what you're
Nobody's talking,
saying.
so I'm thinking I'm the only one with this logic. So what, right, what I would suggest is that make 18 equal to 17 at a minimum. Because at the other steps, we have where you go from 11 to 12 and it's the same amount, and that's true, I think,
This is an error. This was an error this should be saying, actually 9 through 12. And then it should be, that 12, it should be saying 13 to the next threshold. So there's a mistake there.
Plus there's 13 is missing just as well as 8 was missing.
Yeah, 8 is definitely.
There's some errors there in the numbering.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt. I'm simply saying, however, we can't have a more expensive, lower tree total than a higher tree total.
We have done that throughout.
But it doesn't make sense. We're making a policy here. Let's not make a policy.
In other
that
words,
doesn't make
saying the
sense.
more trees, the cheaper the discount.
I understand, the cheaper each individual tree will be, but somebody that has 17 trees is actually paying more than someone that has 18. Not on a per tree, but on an aggregate. But that's not true of any other price break along the entire schedule except here.
Well, it's because when you start discounting, but you have more that you're discounting, it's an anomaly in the math.
understand.
It's correct, but
No, I know, it's, the math.
you're right, the aggregate,
The reason why is because you are moving up three trees at a time until you get 12 to 17, then you're moving up at a much higher step.
I also have a little problem. If 18 trees are $250 apiece, then why are you paying $300 for every additional tree?
Vice Chair, so it appears that we brought some of these concerns up last time we looked at this, and it doesn't look like those modifications or things have been addressed. Maybe we make recommendations for the corrections for the next. I think we can still agree we want to do lieu of payment and then have that fee schedule corrected.
I have no problem with that. I came in here last month with a lot more issues with this. I think you guys saw that very quickly. My concerns all vaporized on a couple little pieces of information. Gosh, I love math.
So we could, I think that's a great idea, Ms. Naylor brings up, Commissioner Naylor brings up, just to have them go back and revise the schedule.
Okay, yeah.
It's incomplete, there are multiple things here that need to be revised, so let's
You
get a
know,
revised.
why
schedule.
should 12 trees cost the same as 11?
There's an error there.
Why are, why are
Can we file a motion? to push this to the next-
17 trees more expensive than 18?
Vice Chair, are we able to just say we'll just postpone this until our next meeting, until the fee schedule is corrected?
We could do that.
That's what I suggest we do.
All right, somebody make that motion then. Unless there's any further discussion, because if we're going to motion the table, then we're going to have to go to immediate vote.
A motion to table the fee schedule and approval until our December meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, would you be willing to add for correction of?
For corrections in the fee schedule, quantities and pricing. I file a motion.
Okay.
To table our conversation for correction in the fee schedule for quantities and pricing.
I'll support that.
Okay, Secretary, call the roll.
Ms. Naylor?
Yes?
Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Ms. Moody?
Yes.
Vice Chair Lubeck?
Yes. All right, the next item of new business is consider approving the 2024 Planning Commission calendar. All right, I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing the first concern being that the normal July meeting would fall on the 4th day of July.
Vice Chair?
That is there a recommended alternate date for that?
Vice Chair?
Yes.
I discussed with city administration and council chambers is available the second Thursday of the month. So that would be both for July 11th and then January 9th.
That's what we did previously, when it fell on a holiday, we just pushed it to the next week.
There's been multiple ways of doing, okay, did you mention the January?
25.
I see the January 2nd meeting of 2025 is highlighted. Is that going to be another day that City Hall is going to be closed because of where the holiday falls, and being that it's a Thursday and Friday City Hall's closed? Or are we okay with that one?
My only answer is that I checked with administration and the second Thursdays of both of those dates are available.
I believe City Hall's closed on the 2nd, according to the calendar, or according to my personal calendar, so I must have added it at some point.
Okay, yeah, that's all I wanted to confirm it. With floating holidays and things of that nature.
Yeah, it's probably because of New Year's Eve and the 1st are off, so then it gets pushed to the 1st and 2nd.
All right, so that would be the 9th. So we're looking at approving this schedule with 2 changes, the July 24 meeting to the 11th, which is the second Thursday, and the January 2025 meeting also being postponed a week to the 9th.
Vice Chair,
Yes,
we also need to amend the application submission deadlines and notice deadlines to follow the same method.
okay, so instead of June 4th, we would have June 11th. And instead of December 3rd, we would have December 10th.
Notice due dates.
And notice due dates would be December 19th and June 20th.
Chair, one clarification on what I said a minute ago. I was looking at 2024, not 2025. You might want to just keep it like you said, but I would think City Hall would be open on January 2nd, 2025.
Okay, that, so
'Cause that's a
they would have
Thursday.
Tuesday and Wednesday off, be open Thursday and Friday closed again.
Yeah, I would assume so.
I would recommend we leave it as it is, so we'll come back out of the new year right into,
Leave it as it,
as you revised it.
as revised, okay. And actually, you know what, we could just even not bother putting that one on there and then deal with it in 2024, because
Either or.
this is a 2024 meeting schedule, and
We can take it off.
that January one is actually a 2025 meeting.
There
So
are-
let's just remove January, is that what I'm hearing?
Yes,
Yeah.
remove it just through December.
Chair,
The only thing about that is the application and the notice deadlines are in 24. I don't know if that
Oh,
impacts
yeah, that's why you have to show
administration.
it.
All right,
Right. Administrative, they have to meet that 124.
so January 9th, with an application submission deadline of December 10th, and a notice deadline of December 19th.
Yes, we'll leave it as stated.
Ms. Brazaszewski, you wanted to say something, did I step all over it? All right. All right. So we would need a motion
I'll make that motion.
to approve the proposed changes to the
Yes,
calendar.
Yes.
And Mr. Lalonde supported that? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yes.
Ms. Naylor?
Yes.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Ms. Moody?
Yes.
Vice Chair Lubeck?
Yes. All right, unfinished business, there is none. That brings us to the second hearing of the public. Sir, would you like to be heard? Second hearing of the public. Okay, Mr. Myron, you know the drill.
Gary Myron, East Point resident. Okay, winter sausage. All the cement in the front was for, I would say, a reason. For, like he said, the trucks. When the trucks come in, they could see all the way down the street. You put trees, you might have a little blockage. Take Cimarroff, for instance. Between the church, the Methodist church, in Andaries. You pull out in front of there, you have a big tree. Well, it's a little, kind of little tree, medium tree. On the medium there, on, next to the curb in front of the church. You can't see down Gratiot. So when you're pulling out onto Gratiot, you have to pull all the way out, part of the way out to Gratiot to see cars coming. And I deal with that all the time. So that's where, watch the trees when you put them in around the corners. And I think that's why, cement is in certain spots. Grass looks better, yes, it does. But watch for, especially school buses trying to get out, because there is a school down there. Thank you, that's it.
Seeing as there is no one else to be heard, I will close the second hearing of the public, move on to training and reports. Item A is a joint meeting scheduled for Thursday, December 7th with the Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals. And I believe Ms. Brazaszewski wants to address that one.
Thank you, Chair, or Vice Chair. Yes, we have an exciting meeting coming up. We'll be joined by the Zoning Board of Appeals and also our redevelopment ready community planner, Stephanie Pena, who will provide an overview of the redevelopment ready community program, the status of East Point, and address any questions that we have. So we'll welcome our fellow ZBA companions in 1 month.
Okay, the holiday appreciation party, I'm thinking that one's going to fall to Mr. McCain, as he is the city administration representative.
Okay, update. I was gonna point that out because we talked about that at beautification. Disregard the flyer in the packet.
I already put mine up by my desk because I really like the holidays.
I
Oh,
really like Friday.
Ms. Ulinski?
Yeah.
On this? Can I borrow an OSU jersey?
Those are prized. They are not ugly, but I will bring you an ugly Michigan one.
No such thing. Unless it's the green and white one. All right,
Mr. Chair, real quick on the joint meeting on Thursday, December 7th, is that before or after our normally scheduled meeting?
Chair?
good question. Are we going to have a normal planning commission meeting that night, or?
Vice Chair?
Yes, please.
Yes, the meeting will take the same format as it always does, and also the Zoning Board of Appeals will need to also take roll, approve their minutes, and they have one matter of new business. And then we will attend the presentation.
Okay.
So there's a joint meeting at the same time with the same procedures.
Okay, so they're meeting typically the third Thursday of the month, will be taking place on the first. Okay.
Well, what time? I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't catch that.
7 o'clock.
It's 7 o'clock, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Item C, ethics training.
Vice Chair?
Yes, please.
So if the commission has other topics on training that they would like to address, please let me know. But I am reflecting on the survey and also administration and the chair's requests. And they would like, or it came up to have an ethics article. So I can read a little bit about with the article, just a couple key points, and talk to you about a scenario. So the planning process exists to serve the public. While the public interest is a question of continuous debate, both in its general principles and in its case-by-case applications, it requires a conscientiously held view of the policies and actions that best serve the entire community. Planning issues commonly involve a conflict of values. Often, there are large private interests at stake, These accentuate the necessity of highest standards of fairness and honesty among all participants. And within this article, we have the guidelines for the American Institute of Certified Planners to follow. So all planning process participants should, 1 through 7, recognize the rights of citizens to participate in the planning decisions, strive to give citizens full, clear, accurate information, strive to expand choice and opportunity, especially meet the needs of disadvantaged groups, assist in the clarification of community goals, objectives, policies, ensure that all reports will be available to decision makers, made available to the public, and strive to protect the integrity of the natural environment, heritage of the built environment, and pay special attention to the interrelatedness of decisions and the long-range consequences. Additionally, planning participants should exercise fair, honest, independent judgment, make public disclosure of all personal interests, and we define personal interests on page 2, item 3, to include any actual or potential benefits or advantages that they, a family member, etc., might gain from, directly or indirectly, from a planning decision. And within that, abstain completely from direct or indirect participation as an advisor or decision maker in a matter that they have personal interest. They may not seek any gifts or favors, and no planning participant can participate as an advisor or decision maker on any project which they previously participated as an advocate. And they serve as advocates only when it's consistent with public interest. And another part that I highlighted is, I'll jump to 11 and 12, not misrepresent facts or distort information for the purpose of achieving a desired outcome, and not participate in any matter unless adequately prepared and sufficiently capacitated to render thorough and diligent service. So this isn't a target at all, it's just a reminder of, or it also, just a reminder of the standards that are available for us as American Institute of Certified Planners to follow, but then also guidelines for all planning practitioners to strive for. And I can open up the floor for discussion, but also give you a scenario that me and my colleagues have been discussing recently, if you wish.
Commissioners? Any questions or comments? Okay. Training and reports, item D.
You guys don't wish for the scenario?
Yes, please, let us
Come on.
know the scenario.
Well, Vice Chair, what do you think about the article? Is it helpful at all? I know it's a little dry because it's all technical, but it's like basically bylaws for planners. Was it a good refresher? Was anything interesting about it?
As one who's been doing this for a long time, I'm probably the wrong one to ask.
So it wasn't interesting or new? No?
No.
Okay, thank you.
It was just stuff that I've heard for years.
Yeah, and a lot of common sense stuff. I guess where my comments would come in, and they're irrelevant to our training on this. We know this. We know, unfortunately, not everyone adheres to all these when it comes to things like respect, respect the rights of all persons, and not improperly discriminate against or harass. We know that happens. What my comment would be is, do not lump all of our boards and commissions together and say that the planning commission does the bidding or does whatever city hall or city council tells us to do. I saw that, and I always promise not to read those Facebook pages, but I took very much offense to it, because I do not believe our planning commission is in any way, shape, or form does that. I think we are a strong commission. I think we all value each other's opinions, and we have our own independent thinking and independent resolutions. And I just would like the public not to lump us all in one category. So yes, I wish the public could also adhere to some of these as well. But no, Mara, thank you.
Okay, now that you've opened that door, I too am frustrated by the public ignorance and arrogance. They have no idea what the processes are. They have no idea what the requirements and limitations and legal requirements of what we do are. But they get on there and, for lack of a better way of putting it, they believe in their own conspiracy. And any attempt to educate them is a waste of time. And as hard as it is, I'm learning more and more to let that stuff just, like a duck roll off my back. I can think of about 3 ignoramuses in general that really put that one out there on a continuing basis. And,
Vice Chair,
yes.
if I may, we are discussing the ethical principles in planning, and I would really like to hear from everyone else if you appreciate this article, if there's any new information about the ethical principles in planning. I also might wish that the citizenry also follow more ethical procedures, but right now, we're putting on our planning hats and seeing if we have any sort of reaction as planners to these bylaws.
My opinion, I have not seen a problem with this group. If there's something going on behind the scenes, I congratulate you for keeping it well concealed. But other than that, I was just responding to Ms. Ulinski's comments because it is and I know it's something that bothers Chairman DeHaan as well, to sit there and have to be accused of all kinds of things that are unconscionable and just not happening. And the fact that we don't respond to it too often probably does say a lot for our ethics.
Ms. Bashashowski, I think that especially when we get new members on the board, a reminder, so to speak, or, of things that those of us who have been here for a while know and hear time after time, but maybe, newer members. It's a good refresher.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else on that one?
I would like to mention, if you don't mind, as the
No, go
scenario.
ahead.
Vice Chair?
Go right ahead.
So I was looking for a scenario for us to talk about, and then something came up. So, I know, along 9 Mile, there's a project that wants to come to Planning Commission to receive a preliminary review of their work and not receive any decision by Planning Commission, but just have their project reviewed on a preliminary basis. And this project would require a special land use, and as we know, special land uses require public hearing notices. And I was discussing the ethics of hosting a preliminary meeting where the public would not be notified within 300 feet because there's no public hearing, because there's no special land use on the agenda. Whereas not refraining from hosting that preliminary meeting and requiring a public hearing with a special land use project on the agenda. Do you understand the conflict here? Because, so if we were to have a preliminary meeting, not everyone would be notified. Some people are actually attend the meetings within 300 feet of the property upon receiving the message in their mailbox, or also through the newspaper. And they might attend the secondary meeting, thinking that they're going to have all of the information presented to them and be able to articulate all at once their concerns, But if we have a preliminary meeting before that, they might find that they've been left out of the conversation, that all information has not been shared the second time around because it's not new to the commission.
So
So,
essentially, they just want to dip their toe in the water and get a feeling for whether or not they should try moving forward with it.
exactly. And cities have allowed this procedure, but me and my colleagues started talking, because I was looking for scenarios for ethics for you guys. What, is it ethical to allow for a preliminary meeting? And my conclusion, I want to know what you guys think. Let's, unbiased. What do you guys think? Is it ethical to allow for a preliminary meeting?
Just my opinion, the scenario you gave, if there's no decision being rendered, it's just preliminary. There's no decision being made, is it move forward or don't move forward? It means it's worth the time to go through the whole procedures or not, or do we need to just nip it in the bud? So if they want to know, should we just scrap this ideal, it's not worth pursuing to go the whole route, and a preliminary is issued in some cities, let's see what they say. Maybe they realize, you know what, it's not worth moving forward. Do the whole public need to know if they're deciding whether they move forward or not? I don't see what's ethical or not, but if they just want to kind of flush things out, save time before they make the investments, because it's not like it's free, site plans and all that kind of things, and, I don't think it's an ethical issue, especially if other cities are allowing it. It's just whether you want to put that time on your agenda or not. That's just my opinion.
Look at this like a legal proceeding. You can't go in front of a judge and kind of present your case to get a feeling of whether or not at trial the judge is going to go yay or nay. That just doesn't fit in that, and I see that the same way with this. Okay, you want a way out? Present your case in 3 minutes at a hearing of the public. But don't have us put it on an agenda as a discussion item that could possibly put us in jeopardy at a later case in point for what Ms. Brazaszewski's saying. I hate to say it, our participation, even with the 300-foot notices, tonight's a good one. Notice was printed in the paper, notice went out 300-foot radius. Nobody was here to speak about the project, which makes me kick back to some of the thinking from Ms. Ulinski's statement. How many times have we posted public hearings? Nobody shows up. We make the best decision possible with the information and input that we received, only then to get lambasted afterwards. Nobody participated in it, but once the decision is made, they're going to show up and tell us how much they are against it or for it. No, you missed your opportunity to speak. And we don't want to have that. I would agree. If it's on our agenda, if that's what they really want to do, then let them pay the fees to host a public hearing. Let's put the notices out there. We can always table public hearing for further input if they decide to proceed.
Vice Chair?
Yes.
That is what, so me and my colleagues and staff have come up with just this idea to ask the applicant to still pay for their escrow, have a public hearing, but not require the special land use and site plan application, but still host a public hearing. Everyone is in the same room all at once to provide all of their information at the same time. And the other cities that have hosted preliminary meetings are actually planting their face in their palm of their hand, because this exact situation has happened to them where members of the public come for the second meeting, so to speak, and they feel left out of the conversation, and then city council later has to hear about it. So this is a great scenario that I'm happy that it's a timely scenario that I'm happy we're discussing today and on the same page.
Okay, so they would have to pay for the costs involved in the public hearing, though. All right.
So I guess my question would be, is that an ethical issue or just not following procedure? I mean, is it unethical? If it's allowed, I don't think anyone would do something unethical.
Well, if
Or
you're
is
not
it-
following
is it just stay-
procedure, is it
stay with-
ethical?
Is that just stay with right with procedure? I mean, I guess it's just definition, but anyway, we could just say follow procedure and keep it simple.
Yeah, the
Follow
question
protocol.
there is the ethics of not following proper procedure.
Makes sense.
It feels like you're sidestepping the discovery process if you have two different meetings, to me.
I got you.
So, yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up.
All right, are we okay with the ethics
That's
portion
fine.
of training and reports? I'm taking exception to item D, because that was actually corrected that night, and I was part of it just to expedite the meeting. But I think it's understood, I've had that discussion with Chairman DeHaan. If you still feel you need to say if that was just it, then if there's additional, then go right ahead. And I'll tell you maybe where that stemmed from is, as long as I've been on here, we've been a lot more casual prior to your arrival. And I'm feeling it tonight. Always having to give you permission to answer a question I just asked you. That was not something we did in the past. We never took motions to open and close public hearings in the past. That was new, and that I just think was a little bit of brain flatulence. So if you've got more to say on that, go ahead. If not, I apologize for stepping on your toes.
Vice Chair?
Yes.
It's just for organizational purposes, to request from the chair to speak. But no, you didn't step on any toes. It's just a refresher. There's a lot of things to juggle. Thank you for dedicating your time tonight to navigate these projects. We couldn't do it without you. We literally cannot do it without you. So you're not stepping on any toes, just a refresher. And I'm here to help.
Okay, well, and thank you for addressing that, because it was a little confusing.
It is confusing. There's a lot of rules out there. Thank you.
All right, if we're all set on that one, we'll move on to commissioner comments. I'll start over on that side of the room with Ms. Brzezowski.
I have nothing to report. It's always been a pleasure. I missed you guys last month, and I'll see you in December.
Mr. McCain.
Excuse me. Good evening, Commission. Since I won't see you before then, have a happy Thanksgiving, and looking forward to our joint December meeting with ZBA to talk about all the great things that go along with being a redevelopment-ready community. Thank you.
Okay, I know the fire marshal has had to leave already. Mr. Albright.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Excellent job chairing the meeting this evening. I just wanted to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Well, thank you. It's the first time I've done this as a vice chairman. Mr. Lalonde.
I have no comments.
Ms. Naylor.
No comments.
Ms. Moody.
No comments, I'm all set.
Mr. Broll.
Nothing tonight.
Ms. Ulinski.
I think I said them all, but everyone have a happy Thanksgiving. And Mara, as always, Mr. McCain as well, thank you always for everything.
Councilman DeMonico.
Thanks, Mr. Vice Chair. Just two very quick things. I'll make it quick since everyone else did. One, I got a tree, since we spoke a lot about trees. I did have a tree in the front yard that the city planted last year, but this meeting we had with the DNR, he said never plant pear trees, and that was a pear tree and didn't survive very long. So now I have one that's on our list of 9. So hopefully I should be all set. But if anyone else wants one, let the city know.
Which one did you get?
Right away. The Greenspire Linden.
Strangely, they planted a pair of those at my house.
Oh, man, after the brain flatulence. And the second thing, of course, Election Day is coming up. Just make sure you vote. If you want to vote in person, that's fine, or absentee. But I just wanted to mention 8 to 4 on Saturday, City Hall will be open. And I've taken advantage of that quite a few times, and I'm not sure that everyone always knows about that. So if you'd rather vote Saturday, just come up here between 8 and 4, or just vote on Tuesday, or vote absentee, or whatever. Yeah, that's all. Happy
Okay.
holidays.
Thank you. Thank you all for yielding your time to me. I have a lot on my list. Earlier this evening, I said I'd save it for my comments. I actually wrote it down so I'd remember. I'm at that age now where the biggest lie I hear is when I tell myself, oh, I'll remember that. But there's a building that was approved by the Planning Commission quite a while ago at 8 Mile and Kelly. It was supposed to be a clothing store that was going to be moving from a mall that used to be called Eastland. And I'm kind of concerned, obviously, the business is not going to move in there. There's a for lease sign on it, and the outside of it is raw cinder block. And there's no way this planning commission would have approved that for exterior. So I'm kind of wondering what's going on with that. Landscaping and trees, the pill, or PILOP as it may have started out, that was suggested quite a number of years ago. I'm okay with what we've got now. What I'm not okay with is landscaping requirements. How we come up having to have what seems to be very intensive landscaping requirements. On the one tonight, well, we have to have a spacing of 20 feet between trees, and then I hear we have to have 10 trees. Well, that's 400 foot of frontage, and there was roughly 150 foot of frontage on that. So I really think that needs to be relooked at and reevaluated so that we truly are not going from a concrete desert to a tree-filled jungle. Let's get this back in line, because I'm looking at this, whether you're coming in with new construction where you're required to put the trees in, or whether you're redeveloping a site, it seems like it's awfully landscape intensive and landscape expensive. We don't want to price development in this city out of range. Part of that does fall under being business friendly, somehow trying to be reasonable about things. Now, if I can be educated, I'm more than willing to learn, but unless you can show me that other neighborhoods, other cities and municipalities similar to East Point are commanding and getting these kind of landscape requirements without pushback from businesses, I'm willing to listen to it. MEDC. Ms. Brzezowski, I asked, and this was well before COVID, if we could get a presentation on what the city of Ferndale did with their 409 on 9 project, which was mainly facilitated by the MEDC. And I'd like to know, since they are supposed to help us, we are supposed to be redevelopment ready, where is this help? Why aren't we getting it? This past weekend, apparently we had quite a number of extracurricular events at one of our event halls. Lot of stuff going on there. I'd like to have more detail what really happened. It seems like there may have been 2 instances, one involving gunfire, and that happens to be in the neighborhood of me. And strangely, I heard gunfire in the time frame that was in the Facebook posts. So, my interest in that is we can always modify our ordinances if there was something lacking in our ordinance for approval of that could have mitigated that situation, then I think maybe we need to revise the ordinance to address that. I'm not going to go into any detail on that until there's more information. I have requested that. I'm hoping at some point to get that. But that's my concern with that. On Tuesday, please educate yourself, go out and vote. If you don't think your vote matters, I'm going to throw you back to 4 years ago. And remind you that one of the decisions was only made by 19 votes. So your vote does matter. I believe that this, despite all the bumps and warts that this country has, is still one of the greatest countries on the earth. That being said, look at what you have more than you look at what you don't, and realize each and every day we have something to be grateful for. And don't forget that on Thursday before you sit down to watch a kickoff or gobble some turkey. That said, that concludes my comments, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion as support to adjourn the meeting at 9:22 PM. Secretary, please call the roll.
Ms. Julinski, yes. Ms. Naylor? Yes. Mr. Broll?
Yes.
Mr. Lalonde? Yes. Ms. Moody?
Yes.
Vice Chair Lubeck?
Yes.